What was the creepiest or most paranormal thing that's ever happened to you? It's Em here. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and without further ado, let's get to the stories. Story 1. I was living with my now mother-in-law in a house she had just purchased a few months before. We had all had various weird feelings or experiences in the house, but two really stuck out. Collectively, there were 3 dogs living in the house at the time. One evening, we were all sitting with our backs to the hallway. This is significant. Watching a movie. All of a sudden, my German Shepherd and my Terrier both perk up their ears and start staring down the hallway, behind where we were sitting. I mean, full attention. I noticed and turned around. The light in the hall was off. It was dark, but of course I didn't see anything. 5 minutes later, they're still staring and now growling. This time, my wife and I turn around and we both watch as the light switch on the wall gets flipped on. Dogs went crazy and so did we. A few weeks later, same scenario. Light is off and we are watching a movie. My German Shepherd loves to play fetch and we always had a million balls around to entertain her. This time she's staring down the hallway and wagging her darn tail. This time we all notice again and start to watch. I swear to God, a ball, single orange tennis ball came rolling down the hallway towards her. We all went white. There are a few others, but Jesus, I hated that hallway. It never felt like bad energy, but my feeble little brain was still scared nonetheless. Edit, one more story. My mom-in-law was having these dreams a few weeks after moving in about the house catching on fire and burning to the ground, with us all inside. Horrible. About 3 weeks after these dreams, we woke up one morning and distinctly smelled smoke coming from the house somewhere. Panicked, we all start searching and eventually came to the garage. On a rafter, we noticed a smoke coming out from around a flower season light fixture. At that moment, I realized, my God, it's attached directly to this old dried out beam. The light was left on all night and it was clearly burning the rafter ever so slightly. Lights are not supposed to be secured or screwed onto a rafter like that. So we like to think our ghost hosts were looking out for all of us. After that, her dream stopped. Thanks, Ghosty. I love a good ghost story where it turns out that the paranormal is actually trying to help people. But mainly because I have to bet that there are a good amount of spirits out there who aren't malicious or evil, but are just souls who are trapped here, so it makes sense why they would want to try and be good. Story 2. This one isn't the worst, but it's always left me with a bad feeling thinking back to it. I used to live out in the country way back, almost to the end of a long dead-end road. There were only 2 houses that were actually lived in that far down. My dad's and the old lady at the very end of the road. There's my dad's house, and around it, kind of off to the side, were a bunch of old medium-sized barn/sheds. I used to let my cat out sometimes and let it roam around the yard, and come back up and pause my window when she was ready to come in. One night, I had done just that, but after a long while, I got a little concerned. She usually only stayed out for an hour or 2 tops, but it had been way longer. I decided to go out and get her. I went her out through the side of the door and immediately felt off, like something was there. I needed to get my cat, though, and if something was there, I chalked it up to a raccoon or other. I grabbed the big light and set off for the barns, calling for my cat. I found her huddled up in one of the barns, and she did not want to leave. It was like she was terrified of something and was very stiff when I picked her up. I haven't taken but 2 or 3 steps when this light shoots across the sky directly over me, illuminating everything, almost like lightning. It made this odd woo-woom sound as it passed. My cat freaked out and started growling and clawing at me, which she never does. I actually dropped her because of it, and she took off towards the house as though she were running for her life. I did the same. I've never figured out what that was. I've read about comments and things like that, but nothing says anything about the odd noise I heard or the reaction my cat had. It could have been something simple and explainable, but man, did it freak me out at the time. Yeah, like OP said, this story could go either way, of it being something explainable like fireworks or something else man-made. But it's also just weird enough that I could see it being something paranormal. Story 3. Not paranormal, but definitely creeped me out. I was walking home one evening and was up the road from my house, about 5-minute walk away. As I'm walking, I see this guy go up an alley, apparently not see something he was hoping to see, and turned around. We briefly made contact, but there was nothing to it, and he was walking really slowly. By the time I'd walk another 30 seconds down the road, I looked back as I was turning the corner, and he'd only just emerged back from that alley. I'm now heading down the road leading to my street, and there's a guy getting into his truck with his wife. The truck is facing up the street in my direction. He flashes his headlights, which I didn't quite understand. Then I hear a scuff behind me. The effing guy from the alley is right behind me, like within arm's reach, even though I heard nothing until he was right there. I'm pretty sure I visibly jumped upon seeing him so close, and he's walking like an absolute demon. I mumble greeting out of pure reflex and start to cross to the other side of the road, removing my backpack in the process. He doesn't respond to my greeting or even look at me. He's just looking dead ahead like I'm not even there. He just starts running as soon as I moved. He bolts down the road and turns right into another alley, and I hear some banging on a wooden fence. As I walk past the alley about 30 seconds later, I take a glance and it's empty. He must have vaulted a vent or something. Like I said, not paranormal or anything like that, but it creeped me the hell out. I still don't know how the guy moves too fast to catch up to me in such a short space of time, nor how I didn't hear him. I've got pretty good hearing, and he must have been sprinting to catch up with me. Weird stuff. I felt like the story was going to go much differently with OP being hurt or something, but I'm really glad that's not where it went. Honestly, it sounds like that guy might have been on some substance or something. You'd be surprised at how superhuman stuff like that can make a person. Story 4. As a child, I moved around a lot, army brat, and I insisted that every house I moved to was haunted. Nothing major ever happened, just weird noises, opening doors, things being in places that make no sense. It wasn't until my second year at uni that I clocked on that I was haunted, not the houses, after my housemate suggested it. Anyway, last year, I was on the walk to my uni house from my job at a bar at about 3 a.m. To get into the house, you have to walk down a privately owned alleyway. Just as I reach the entrance to this alley, a man runs up behind me and spins me around. He's clearly had a bit too much to drink and starts trying to grab me, touch me up, and convince me to remove my t-shirt. Naturally, I'm very uncomfortable and scared. I remember that the window to the house had an alarm that went off if the window was hit. I figured if I could get down the alley and hit the window, my 2 male housemates would wake up and help. Only issue. Every time I'd walk down the alley, he'd grab me again. After maybe 5 minutes of a struggle, the man hit me. Next thing you know, the alarm on the window goes off, waking up my housemates and scaring off the man. Next day, the police were called. We gave them access to the CCTV footage at either end of the alley. The man was caught on tape. Since most of the incident occurred in the alleyway, there was not enough evidence to charge. Later that day, my housemates and I decided to check the footage to see what caused the alarm to go off. There was nothing. No bird, cat, or any other animal. The alarm just went off. This had never happened before and didn't happen any time after either. I'm convinced it was my ghost. It used to freak me out, but I'm kind of glad it's around now. Story 5. For the longest time, I thought I was haunted. Every day, every time I was alone, I'd hear something. It started out pretty innocuous, a few footsteps nearby or a slight rustling of leaves. But as time went on, it got more intense. The footsteps got louder, closer to the point where I could feel someone on my heels. Bushes that used to lightly ruffle 20 feet away were perfectly still until I was inches from them, at which point they'd violently shake like someone was jumping out of them. Naturally, this was freaking me the hell out, but then something changed. One day, I woke up to find a note slipped under my bedroom door. Can we be friends? At this time, I lived alone, and you couldn't get to the outside of my bedroom without having keys for both the apartment complex and my unit. Nobody besides myself and my landlord had those keys. Not really knowing what else to do, I grabbed a pen and wrote back, okay. From then on, I didn't hear the footsteps anymore. No more rustling of leaves either, but every now and then I'd be thinking, though, something or talking to myself in my head. And I'd hear this wonderfully sweet little giggle. It never surprised me, and it never felt wrong to hear. Honestly, it kind of felt like when you'd make your crush giggle. There was the same warmth and satisfaction. Whoever this ghost was, we were friends. Over the next several months, we became better friends, actually talked, and eventually started to see her. Supernatural, right? No, turns out I'm just mildly schizophrenic. Take care of your mental health, y'all. This was honestly, I did not see this coming. I thought this was going to be like a Casper situation. But yeah, I agree with OP. Take care of your mental health. Story 6. The very first hotel that I worked at, I started at the front desk and worked 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift. There was someone there with me from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., so I always had a little more than an hour where I was alone at the desk. Our kitchen closed at 10 p.m., so usually by 10:15 p.m., it was only the bartender and I still there. One night it was almost 11 p.m., and there was a huge noise that came from the kitchen area. The bartender and I ran back there and saw that every single pot, pan, ladle, spoon, everything else that was hanging from the ceiling racks were on the ground. After our shift, we watched the cameras back, and there was no one in the kitchen when it happened. I have no explanation for it other than it was one of the scariest things that has ever happened to me, and I could not get out of there fast enough. And somebody asked OP a question in the comments. Did you see all of the things fall to the floor by themselves in the video? That is super scary. Reminds me of that scene in Paranormal Activity, and OP responded. Yes, I was able to see every single item hit the floor at the exact same time. I said the exact same thing. I looked at the bartender and told her that it reminded me of those movies. She claims to have a lot of experience with ghosts and spirits and said that she knew that there were several at the hotel, but that was the only time I was witness to one of them. Story 7. Somewhat ironically, something happened to me last night. I got home from work very early in the morning, like 2:30 a.m. My house has an entryway, or mudroom, before you actually get into the house. I open the front door, step inside, close the front door, and proceed to try and find the way to get through the next door into my house. So the only light in this entryway is through the glass on the front door. The rest of the room is completely black, and I can barely see my hands in front of my face. All of a sudden, I start to hear this buzzing/vibrating noise behind me off to the right. The house is old, so maybe just weird house noises. Still looking for the key when I noticed that the noise was getting louder, closer, and it has risen in pitch to something like if a woman was humming loudly. Maybe it's just ringing in my ear. Out of the corner of my eye, I see a shadow that I thought was from light reflecting outside move towards me, creeping along the wall. That's when I noticed the vibrating noise was also getting closer to me. It seemed to be coming in the same direction as the now moving shadow. I'm crapping my pants trying to open this darn door, and when I finally do, the noise stops, the shadow disappears, and I'm hoping it was all in my head. This might be a case of where our mind hears a noise and instantly starts trying to find the source of it, so it'll play tricks on us to create faces or shapes in the shadows. But I will say the fact it all stopped when OP opened the door might change that theory a little. Story 8. In the house I grew up in, it always felt like you were being watched. I'd see shadows out of the corner of my eye and darkness that would dissolve when you looked straight at them. My older sister was always scared of the attic, especially. She would barricade the door when we were left home alone. I went in the attic quite often to get various things. It's where we kept large toy containers, old clothes, and stuffed animals. And I just liked seeing what I could find. It always felt like I was being watched, though. One time I went up there, and as I reached the top of the stairs, I saw a large, translucent, alien-shaped white head looking at me from behind a box. I froze, terrified, and locked eyes with it for a few seconds, before it slowly lowered itself down to hide. I turned right back around and left, telling myself I had imagined it, but scared to go in the attic for years after that. I didn't tell anyone for years. My parents eventually sold the house and we moved, and I've never felt the same way anywhere else I've lived. Story 9. I was sleeping in my basement, pretty much my bedroom, and I woke up at some random time in the night for no reason. Rolled over and saw a black figure, probably around 5'10" feet, in typical male physique, standing at the side of my bed. It was standing between the bed and the stairs, so there was no way to nope out of there. I just rolled over and straight up started praying. I rolled back over and it was gone. The next morning, I was in the shower, also in the basement, and the curtain was pushed to the side, not like all the way, but it noticeably moved. Then when I got out of the shower, my cello's D string was plucked 3 times, then wrung out, which was laying against my chair in the basement. Then I went upstairs and my brother had a handprint that reached across his neck and cheek. It was too big to be his hand, but he was perfectly fine, and he slept through the night uninterrupted. Story 10. I used to have this recurring nightmare about this lizard man type monster who could see what I could see out of my eyes. So I'd run and hide, and he didn't know where I was. Then, as soon as I peeked to see if it was safe, he'd know where I was. So I'd have to leave those hiding spots and go find a new one. And then it would happen, over and over and over again. A literal nightmare. Very cough gas, but here's the real spooky part. I once mentioned the lizard man to my dad, and he got super white in the face, and his voice was all shaky, and he just said, "This dream took place at our house in East St. Paul, the one with the apartments right behind it?" And I said, "Yes. That's where I'd always go to hide. How did you know that?" And he said, "Because I have the exact same dream, and I'd like to know if it was just the way he said it, or just the overall situation, or both. But I still get goosebumps thinking about it. It's quite chilling." I'm getting goosebumps right now just reading about it. Linked dreams are always so creepy to me, because the similarities can be shocking. Maybe their dreams weren't the exact same, but it's still creepy. Story 11. One afternoon in college, I came back from classes and decided to sit on the couch and have a snack. After that, I just passed out. I had a nightmare of some bloody-faced demonish thing screaming in my ear at the top of its lungs. Woke up and went about the rest of my day. My roommate comes back later that night and goes into his room as I'm sitting in the main living room. At some point, he lets out this random startled scream, which leads to me running down the hall to see what's going on. He looks at me and goes, "I swear to God, someone with a bloody face just walked from your bedroom into the bathroom." I never told him about my nightmare I had earlier in the day. I didn't sleep for 2 days. Nothing ever happened again. Story 12. All nurses have all kinds of creepy as hell stories. One of the most unsettling, we had this very needy patient who would put on his call light every 10 or 15 minutes for the goofiest stuff. Fluff my pillow, more ice in my water, I forgot something, etc., etc. Hell, one time he hit his call light, we went in there. He says, "I dropped my call light." Anyway, one night he died. Thing is that mother effing call light kept going off at every night for 10 for 15 minutes, while his body lay in the bed and we waited for the mortician to come get him. Look, OP, maybe he just wanted another pillow for beyond the grave. Story 13. When I was in college, I house sat for my parents. I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, so I locked every door leading up to the bedroom when I went to bed at night. I had the weirdest dream that someone unlocked each door and turned on every light. I felt cold and woke up to my dog barking. All of the lights in the house were on and every door open and unlocked. My dog wouldn't stop barking at nothing in the hallway. I sat in the shower with my dog and phoned the rest of the night scared to death. Story 14. My boyfriend and I woke up in separate parts of the house in hysterics, naked and covered in sweat. When we both finally calmed down and talked, we realized we had the same dream of being surrounded by a group of black and white people with no mouths. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.